NBA Today.
All right, breaking news. Just a couple of hours ago, our Shams Charania broke that the New York Knicks are expected to bring in two-time NBA Coach of the Year Mike Brown as their next head coach. He replaces Tom Thibodeau, who led New York to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. Welcome in here to Los Angeles here on NBA Today. I'm George Sedano in for Malika Andrews, alongside the host of the Hoop Collective podcast, Brian Windhorst, our NBA front office insider, Bobby Marks, our NBA senior reporter, Ramona Shelburne, and the Hall of Famer of Anscape, Mark Spears. I'm George Sedano. All right, so let's talk about this. Brian, I'll start with you. Knicks hire Mike Brown. Your thoughts?
So he's got one of the most established resumes of any coach in the profession right now. He coached underneath Greg Popovich, underneath Rick Carlisle, underneath Steve Kerr. He was a head coach in a number of different teams, but Coach LeBron, Coach Kobe, has coached the #1 defense in the league, has coached the #1 offense in the league, which is what he did 2 years ago when he won his second Coach of the Year crown with the Kings, where he helped the Kings break their 16-year drought of playoffs. We have the #1 offense. So he has done a lot of different things over his career. He brings a wealth of experience. He's evolved a lot over the last 20 years. He got hired 20 years ago this month, I guess last month now, 20 years ago in June, to be his head coach for the first time. He's a lot different coach now than he was then. I see people comparing him. They think he's like Thibodeau because they're both defensive coaches. Yes, he's a defensive first coach, but he's very, very different, and his personality is very much, more of a mosaic than people are giving him credit for.
Well, he's walking into a situation. How many head coaches walk into a situation when you're probably one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference here? And he's walking into a lineup and a roster that has 7 returners, your top 5 starters, and you're going to add Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele here to a team that, let's face it, Eastern Conference at least is the expectation moving forward here. NBA Finals, you don't get rid of a Tom Thibodeau to go out and do that here, and it's a lot different than what he walked into in Sacramento a few years ago. But as Brian just said, the experience in being in Golden State, the experience of being in Cleveland with LeBron has certainly prepared him for this.
You know, we've all met Mike Brown at different stops along the way. You caught him early in Cleveland. I caught him mid-career at LA. And then when I saw him in Golden State, he really seemed like a changed guy. Like he took over for Steve Kerr for a lot of those games. Remember, Steve had his back injury, and he had to coach games in the finals for Steve Kerr. And Mike and Steve had this sort of symbiotic relationship where, like, Steve he spoke so highly of Mike, I didn't think they would ever let him leave. But then the Sacramento Kings said, we want some of that Golden State Warriors secret sauce. And they were in a different place than the Warriors, though. They weren't ready to win yet. They were building. And I think now he's back to a team where they're kind of ready to win. And all the things that he's learned along his journey have made him the coach he is today. All
right, let's bring in the man who broke the story. Senior insider Shams Charania broke that news earlier. Shams, take us real quick through the decision to hire Mike Brown.
George, I'm told 2 factors played into the Knicks' decision to land on Mike Brown as the head coach. They felt, as a collaborator, someone that's adaptable with all levels of the organization, the front office to the players, they felt on all levels he would collaborate well. And then the other factor is leadership and what he provides in that lens. Leon Rose, the Knicks president, his staff, they did hours of research on which coach will really come in and fit the group around Jalen Brunson. And so Mike Brown, Taylor Jenkins, James Borrego, Micah Nori, those were the finalists for this job. Mike Brown, I'm told, interviewed for a second time on Tuesday with Knicks officials. He's the only coach that met with them twice, and that meeting included James Dolan. And so now he walks away with a coaching job. And this is a pressure cooker of a job for Mike Brown. This has championship expectations, and he's coached a vast array of stars throughout his 3 decades as head coach. I mean, think about LeBron James in Cleveland, in San Antonio, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. In Golden State, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. Most recently, of course, Kobe Bryant as well, Pau Gasol, and then De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in 2022-23. The Kings had the top-ranked offense in the NBA. They're obviously hoping for that same level of creativity coming up in New York.
Shams, you're the man. Thanks for the time, brother. Appreciate you. All right, there he is, Shams Charania. Mark, let me ask you about your thoughts on the hire with Mike Brown.
You know, I know Mike pretty well, and once he lost his position, you know, he's certainly in a financial position to just chill and do nothing. Could chill for a couple years. I could tell he never rested. He was studying all the openings, what could be best for him, how he could fit in. And he has spent time and time and time studying these teams. And I know when he came to New York, he was ready. He had studied their offense for months already. He had studied what they do on defensively, studied what he could do to try to make them better. He's a military guy. Brian knows this. Like, he's going to come ready for everything. And I think I asked him when he first talked to him, I was like, man, there's a lot of pressure that comes with this job. This is a different kind of job. He said, I love it. I want this. And so I think the Knicks, they're getting somebody where all the laughing is stopping. They got a quality head coach who's been through all the battles and is going to walk in and command respect. And I think, to Ramona's point too, Mike is also, since his Golden State days, has learned to kind of loosen up as a coach and relate with the players a lot better.
You talk about pressure. He had the hardest job in sports, following Phil Jackson, coaching LeBron James. I mean, like, this man, you think the New York pressure cooker is tough? He's had those jobs already.
I thought the hardest coaching job was the Sacramento Kings.
I mean, that one certainly has instability, I would say that.
In terms of, like, day-to-day.
He fell to that.
I know where you're going.
Day-to-day, following Phil Jackson's a pretty tough one.
But real quick, he did certainly accomplish something in Sacramento. They hadn't made the playoffs in 16 years.
There's a lot of fans there.
I'm going to be interested to see what they do with the assistant coaching staff. I think, obviously, I think Rick Brunson's obviously going to be on the coaching staff like he was. But how many of the assistants from last year's staff remain? I think quite
one's
a few.
at Florida State now. So. But I think he could be chilling right now, man.
He could.
That shows me something about how competitive he is as a coach, as a person. He could be in French Riviera right now. He wanted to coach.
Right.
And they're going to get a little bit of discount because the Kings
are going to offset some of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact that he never wavered from the time that he got fired about taking time off. I never heard him say, you know what, I'm going to just go work with us, come over here. No, he wanted to work.
All right, so now that the coaching carousel is over, let's get back to free agency. The story of the past 48 hours and all the noise you hear is certainly the sound of the bank vaults opening. So far, over $2 billion have been agreed to in the 2025 period. Here's a little refresher on what's gone down. There have been over 50 agreements this offseason, headlined by Denver trading Michael Porter Jr. to the Nets in exchange for Cam Johnson. MPJ obviously won a championship with Denver back in 2023. One of the biggest winners in free agency were the Atlanta Hawks, who got one of the most highly coveted guards in Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a 4-year, $62 million deal. To the Western Conference, the Clippers. They bolstered their front court. They added 2021 NBA champion Brook Lopez, who agreed to a 2-year, $18 million deal. And now he's also closer to Disneyland. We know he's a big Disney fan for sure. Which left the void, by the way, of Milwaukee at center. Insert now 10-year vet Miles Turner, who agreed to a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Bucks. Turner leaves the reigning Eastern Conference champs in one of the biggest shockers of the offseason. But to make all of this happen, the Bucks